when you've been in a relationship that is so violent and there's so much fear all the time, little things that happen in this new relationship I was in, when little things would happen, like say I'd be stood and there'd be a cupboard door behind me and he'd like punch a hole in the cupboard door and my face was right there. Things like that would scare me, yeah, but it was like, it was normal because I'd been having episodes like this happen to me pretty much constantly since I was 17 years old.
Alana Wallace, thank you very much for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Michael. I appreciate it.
So, you and I have met a few times
Mm-hmm.
because we will work together sometimes on a news program where we offer commentary on the day's news.
Yeah.
You were very kind recently where you said you liked my podcast. And then you said, if ever you want to talk about, domestic abuse,
Mm-hmm.
that you'd be willing to do so. And then we spoke after the show and that led to this.
Yeah.
So you're maybe celebrity is too strong a word.
Too strong.
Okay,
Far too
fine.
strong. Rein it back in.
All right, fine. But you have a brand in
I
Dubai.
do.
You have your own radio show.
Mm-hmm.
You are on which radio station?
Love 107.1
And
in the morning show.
what time?
Yeah, from 6 until 10 a.m.
Monday through Friday.
Monday through Friday.
Okay, so we're here today because we're talking about domestic abuse.
Mm-hmm.
And you are a victim of domestic abuse.
I was, yeah.
So tell me how it started for you.
So when I was 17 years old, I met a guy who I was with from 17 to 21 years old. That was my first encounter, 4-year relationship. Horrendous time. It wasn't all horrendous. There was lots of lovely moments
Mm-hmm.
in there as well, but a lot of violence, a lot of blackmail, a lot of me being terrified a lot of the time, walking on eggshells, ready for the bomb to go off any minute now.
Right.
And that's how it first
So
started.
I can understand how a relationship develops, but at what point into the relationship was there that first instance when something happened?
Yeah. It's about 6 months in. And I remember we were in his flat apartment at the time and we were having an argument and he just had like a leather jacket on, grabbed my jacket at the collar and just when I say threw me across the room. He was a really, really tall guy, big, big build and
Sure.
everything. Threw me across the room. And that was about 6 months in. And that was the first time a man, a grown man, had ever been physically abusive to me. I was kind of completely in shock.
Okay, so as
You know?
somebody, first of all, I'm a man, so I can't relate on many levels. I'm just unable to. But at that point, why wouldn't that have been the end of the relationship?
Yeah. I think I was young and stupid. I definitely should have, obviously hindsight is a great thing. But in that moment, he would threaten, he would say, if you leave me, I'm going to beat up your dad, beat up your cousin. That was like the lines that he would always use.
Right.
And
And this is the blackmail that you had mentioned.
yeah, well, yeah, but a lot of other things as well. But that was, one instance. And I, in a weird way, I was in love with him. I was in love with this person. And I wanted to, believe that would be the first and the last of it,
So you were in love because you had had those, I assume, pretty good for 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
But did you think, and again, we're looking at this hindsight, did you think that physical act, that violent act on his part, excuse me, was somehow a form of love?
As the relationship went on and it became increasingly more toxic and much more violent, I would like kind of crave it in a way. It's so messed up to say, but it was like the more he would lose his patience at me and lose his temper at me and like lash out, it was yeah, like it was validation that he loved me.
Because
So
he
it's
was,
so weird. It's so horrendous to say, I know.
and that's because he was so passionate, you thought?
It was, yeah. Yeah, it was a very, very passionate relationship and very, obviously extremely toxic, yeah.
So this relation, that's 6 months into the relationship. You
Hmm.
go for another 3.5
Yeah.
years, and there are more instances like that,
That was like, that was just getting started. That was very much just getting started. Yeah. There was horrendous
such
incidents
as
throughout the 4 years. The
what?
worst
Yeah,
was probably, um, one time in an argument, he came up to me in full pelt, headbutted me at full speed. And bearing in mind, this guy was like 6'1", 2", tall guy, big guy, full on headbutted me. Um,
in the face,
in the face here, my forehead, yeah. Um,
knock you out.
it didn't quite knock me out, no, but it almost did the trick, yeah. And at the time, I was back and forth from the UK and Dubai, and it was winter in the UK at the time, and I'd just flown over to the UK, to Dubai, and I was modeling at the time. I used to work as a model here in Dubai, and I'd had a beanie, like a wool beanie hat, um, and because it was winter in the UK, and I had a casting the next day for a modeling job, and obviously my head was like out here, from where he headbutted me, and had to wear a beanie to the casting. And they were like, "Will you take the beanie off?" And it was just the most horrifying moment. Um, and that night I told him, and I was like mortified, like, "Look what you've done to me," kind of thing. Um, and he has a daughter, and at the time his daughter was really, really young. And I said, "What would you do? Like, how would you feel if someone did this to her when she was older?" And he said to me, "She would never deserve anyone to do this to her." So he said to me. And sorry, and just after that incident when he did like headbutt me, when I kind of came to and I was like, realized what had happened. Obviously, I started screaming the place down. I was hysterical. And he got me into his car and he drove me to, I don't know where it was, side of a road. He dropped me off. He said, without a phone, without anything, he said, "Stay here until you calm down." And in the dark, he left me on the side of this road. And I was just, yes, a state, as you can imagine.
So I want to jump ahead a little bit and then jump back, because I think there's an interesting conversation to be had. You, I assume, have gone through therapy to try and work out
Hmm.
a lot of this.
Yeah.
So when you look back now on that relationship, specifically on him,
Hmm.
based on your non-professional judgment about the sort of person that he was, what would you say?
There's a lot of things I can say and I won't say. Yeah, I just pray that he's not like that today. Obviously, first and foremost. And I would just say there was so much darkness in him, so much darkness. I would definitely use the word evil, 100%. There was a lot of evil in him. And I know that he'd had a lot of stuff, within his childhood, sadly. I don't think that really excuses you to put someone through such agony. Um,
So during that 4-year relationship, that was the extreme, but the other sorts of violent episodes, if you were to, I'm trying to help people understand how common this was in that relationship
mhm.
and how often you would have had to have dealt with something. So there would have been something once a week, once a
I would
month.
say once a month it would blow up. There'd be continuous like fights and arguments, but once a month it would be violent. About once a month it would get violent. Um, to be fair, towards the kind of last maybe 4 or 5 months of the relationship, 4 months, it was okay. In regards to the violence, but very much so from like 6 months in to kind of 3 years in, there was a lot, a lot.
So he was working in Dubai and going back to London on occasion, and you were doing back and forth London, Dubai,
Yeah.
London,
Well,
Dubai.
so we met up north where I'm originally from, where we were originally from. And then, so from 17 to about 18 and a half, we were there.
Right.
And then when I was about 19, he moved here. And that kind of coincided with me finishing theatre school and then moving to London. And he came over here. He got a job in Dubai, and I would do like kind of 3 weeks or a month here, and then 3 weeks or a month in London, and that's how I did it
Right.
for just under 2 years, from like 2007 to 2009. And I kind of thought when he was here, things would change, or at least I really hoped things would change. And they did for a while, but then, there was that instance with the headbutting, and there was other instances where just kicking me in, never. The only thing he did to my face was, oh, actually, no, he did smash a photo frame around my head once. That was with my face as well. But yeah, but with the kicking and the punching, it would be like from the body down.
So, what was the final straw?
My sister, one of my sisters, Jill, so in 2009 he left Dubai, and so did I, obviously. And I was in London, and I was trying to get away from him to break things off. And he sent me a text message saying the River Thames will run red with the color of yours and your sister's blood. And up until this point, I'd kept it or tried to keep it a massive secret from like everyone. I think certain people knew that were close to me. They saw like glimpses of what was going on. Um, like some of my family members, some of my friends definitely saw like the him being physically abusive to me in pubs in the UK or in cafes in the UK in the street. Like people did see things, but they didn't know how severe it was and how like ongoing it was. Because I would do my best to mask it and to shield it. So my sister didn't necessarily, although he had once hit her in her legs and in a car one time, or like grabbed her leg, or he did something to her leg in a car one time. Um, but anyway, she saw my phone and she saw this text message about the river will run red with your blood, yours and your sister's blood. And she was like, we have to phone the police. Like, you can't not. But this to me, because this was just, I knew it was like horrendous behavior, but to me, I was so indoctrinated in it, and I was so brainwashed and numb to it that.
But I want to stop you there for a second because you said that you tried to hide it. So you would have known there was something that was wrong with the relationship
And I did, yeah, but I was terrified that because he
if you
was,
acted on it,
yeah, yeah,
and that's what kept you in the relationship.
yeah, I guess. And as well, I did love him, like in a very screwed up, messed up way. I loved the guy. We were engaged for a while. I loved him. Um, Terrified of him, absolutely. But um, he was my first love. He got me at a very, very vulnerable and young age. I believe I was completely brainwashed at the time.
So we'll get back. He sends this text
Yeah.
message. Your sister sees it, and she says,
And she makes me phone the police after long discussions. I didn't want to. She like, if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have.
and you're back in London
And
at
I'm
this
back in
point.
London at this
Right.
point, yeah. The police come over, a lady and a man. And as well, I think another reason I didn't want to phone the police, I was scared they wouldn't believe me.
Interesting.
I was scared that they would have
Blame the victim.
bigger fish to fry as well, right?
Right.
Like I'm living in London. It's a city where a lot of crime is. I would think they wouldn't have had time for it, but they came round and they were incredible. Like I was blown away at how seriously they took it. They took a statement from me, and they called me back the next day, and they basically said more or less everything what you've told us. A very similar statement happened about a year before you guys met, with his ex-girlfriend. So because the stories had aligned so much, and it wasn't like the first time his name had been raised with the police, flagged with the police, they said, okay, well, what we're going to do, because he was up north at the time, and I was in London, so it was different, like police boroughs. They said, well, we can't arrest him. We have to phone him, contact him, and let him know. He has to hand himself into London within 24 hours. And if he doesn't, then the Northumbria police can go and arrest him. So he came to London with his mum. He went to the police station, and I believe they were in there for quite a few hours. And then I was given after that, like a temporary restraining order for a short term, which was great because I felt a bit more like safe then. And I had a number where I could call if I felt like I was in danger. There would be a police car within a mile's radius of me that would be able to get to me as quick as possible. Me and my sister moved out of the flat that we had in London. We moved areas, completely different areas. I stopped working at a place where I would work at the time,
So
where
you were
he
trying to change your routine so
completely
he would
changed it.
know
Yeah,
nothing
where
about
he
you.
would know, like he wouldn't be able to get to me, basically. Um, and yeah, and then I think about 6 months afterwards, the police phoned me and they said, we can't extend the restraining order, make it permanent, but you have to go to court. And obviously like he'll be there as well. And you have to, and I just didn't have it in me. Like I just did not have it in
The
me to,
idea of having to face him.
no, like I was complete shell of myself. I would not have been able to be in the same room with him and being able to talk through what happened to me. It would have been impossible for me at the time.
So that's 4 years. You're back in London. And then do you start thinking about how can I process everything that went through? Do you start going to therapy at that point?
I don't think I did at that point. No, it was many years after.
So there, for most people, you would think that might be the end of, one horrific episode in your life.
Mm.
But you ended up meeting somebody
I
else.
am so lucky I did the same thing again. Not like this.
So what happened?
Yeah.
How much later in your life did you meet the
Yeah. I don't think I knew him. I was working with him. I was in a band at the time, a girl band, and he was in our team. And it was about maybe 9 or 12 months after the relationship with my previous partner had ended. And I got in another relationship with this new guy. And it wasn't as, when you've been in a relationship that is so violent and there's so much fear all the time, little things that happen in this new relationship I was in, when little things would happen, like say, I'd be stood and there'd be a cupboard door behind me and he'd like punch a hole in the cupboard door and my face was right there. Things like that, that would scare me, yeah. But it was like, it was normal because I'd been having episodes like this happen to me pretty much constantly since I was 17 years old.
but at least now he's actually not touching you.
Yeah. But then I think about maybe it was 2 years into the relationship. He smashed my head against a car window, like smashed it into a car, like the window of the car. And then about 3 years into the relationship was the worst night of my life. Um, a lot of sexual violence went on that night. Um, a lot of physical violence. He pretty much nearly killed me. He had me down on the floor by my throat, begging him to let go, could hardly speak, hardly breathe. It was horrendous. Went to his parents' house with blood on my face. They took me in. Um, that was the worst, like for everything that my first boyfriend had done to me, which was bad, very bad. This was just like the grand finale, if you like.
And so that was the final
Yeah.
incident and you left then.
Yeah.
So you've now, I don't know if two makes a pattern, but you have had two
Mhm.
consecutive boyfriends, both violent. At this point, do you start thinking, I need to change patterns?
Yeah.
And how do you do that?
So during this relationship with the second violent guy, I developed an extremely bad anxiety disorder, um, like horrendous panic attacks. Um, so I think I broke up with him when I was 25 and I started going to therapy then. Various other things had happened as well in my personal life that led me to go to therapy. But that's when I seek professional help.
Right.
Yeah.
So just pause there for a moment. So go back to your childhood. Is there anything in your history
Mhm.
that would maybe, for people who might not have experienced anything that you've
Mhm.
experienced, was there anything in your childhood that you could point to say that might have been something that caused me to fall into these relationships?
No, my dad is the most amazing man on the planet. Like, he is my best friend. He's my biggest supporter. He's the most amazing man on this earth. He's a gift from God. Um, so nope, it wasn't like there was any bad feeling towards my father. Absolutely nothing like that. From the outer um side of the family, I'd seen, heard some stuff, but that was very much on the outer. That was nothing to do with my immediate close family.
Okay, so this second relationship has ended. You recognize that therapy is maybe something that's going to help you.
Yeah.
And did it help?
Um, yeah, I do think it did. Uh,
And what was it? Was it more of what we think of as sort of traditional therapy where you're
it
speaking
was
with a therapist?
it was speaking therapy and CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, but at that time in my life, I was still 25, and I don't think I was at the place where I was mature enough or grounded enough to really take the therapy seriously. It was something that I knew I needed to do, but I just wasn't there. I wasn't mentally there to be able to receive it. Um, the first time I had very good therapy, I was about 30 years old, and I had an extremely good therapist who was really hardcore, but like amazing. And we did fantastic work. And I believe that's when I started to properly heal.
Right.
But as well as the CBT therapy, I have a spiritual and a Reiki healer who I think she is the most amazing person in the world, and I am like her biggest advocate. And I've done a lot, and I've seen her since I was 28, 37 now. So we've done a lot of healing. So I've done both the science-backed therapy and the more spiritual, holistic side of things. I do a lot of meditation as well, a lot of sound healing.
So 25 when this you're 25 when the second relationship ends. How do you end up back in Dubai?
Oh, not for many years. Yeah, I didn't come back to Dubai till I was 33. And I was terrified to come back, because none of anything to do with this country, but just I was scared how I would feel when I came back here.
Because
Um,
violence happened.
yeah, because of the episodes that happened here. I was really scared of how that would set me off. Obviously, I have PTSD, so I was really scared and had no desire to come back at all. And then after COVID, obviously Dubai was one of the only, places you could come on holiday. So I came on holiday with a guy that I was seeing at the time and some friends, some old friends, and I had the best time. I had the best time. And I was so um surprised at how good I felt here. And anyway, so me and this guy that I was with at the time, we would come quite a lot on holiday here, and because we both loved it here. And every time I'd leave, I'd get so upset and I'd feel so upset because I felt like I was abandoning like my inner child. Like I was leaving her here to like kind of get on with it and just abandoning her like I did all those years ago. I know that's getting a bit woo-woo, but that's how I feel. And and so a job opportunity came up for me to come back here. And at the time, there wasn't much going on in the UK because before I was, doing radio and media. I was in the entertainment industry. I was an actor. I was a dancer, and there wasn't a lot going on. So this opportunity came up over here, and I jumped at the chance. And the rest is history, as you'd say. I love how I feel when I'm here. I consider the UAE my home. I'm extremely proud to be a resident here. I think it's the best place on earth. I really do. And I'm so proud of myself that, so much horrendous things happened to me all those years ago in this country. Be no fault of the country's, of course. Like it was a complete personal thing. Um, but now, like, it's just a really beautiful, like 360 moment because somewhere where I was so terrified, now I feel so, so safe and I thrive. And I'm like, I believe sat here right now, I'm like the best version that I've ever been in my life. Um,
So I'm interested, why, because you do have a bit of a brand and because, as we've talked about, you have your own radio show, why do you want to talk about this?
Yeah.
Because I would imagine it can be painful. Maybe it's also therapeutic.
Hmm.
But certainly, as you said, you had PTSD, and maybe there are other triggers that you have to sort of deal with.
Yeah.
Why why would you want to come in a public forum and talk
Hmm.
about something that was, by all accounts, listening to you, pretty awful?
Yeah. Because when you're in something like that, in a horrendous relationship or manage to get out of it, it is such a daunting place and it's such a lonely place. And you can't imagine even like going to the shops, and that like there's been days in my life where I haven't been able to leave the house for days on end because like I'm terrified and I can't face the thought of like facing other people just at the supermarket and like buying groceries. To think about doing that takes so much of you from like what you've encountered. And the fact now I can, I've had a good career. I'm able to go on stage in front of hundreds, sometimes thousands of people and do my job to the best of my ability. If someone had seen some of the scenes that happened to me, they wouldn't be able to believe that it's the same person. So I guess why I wanted to come here and discuss this with you, Michael, is because and as corny as cliche as it sounds, if I can get out of something so horrendous and live a beautiful and a full life, anyone can, truly. And it's gonna be so hard. The recovery never ends. Like I'm still massively healing from what happened. I don't think it'll ever stop. But I'm aware of that, and it takes so much bravery and courage, and you're the only person who's going to be able to do it. No one. You can do as much therapy as you like, you can speak to as many people as you like and all the rest of it, but ultimately, and it starts and ends with you, and you are the one who's going to be able to make your life go on so you can continue to be caught and trapped in this cycle of self-hatred and desperation and I'm a victim and fear, or you can make the decision and move on with your life and make it as good as you possibly can.
So, towards that end, what is it that somebody who's listening here who maybe is going through something, uh, what is it that they should be? What are some of the signs,
Mhm.
at least in your experience,
Yeah.
that maybe could alert someone to the fact that they're in a pretty unhealthy relationship?
Yeah. I mean, the obvious things like the control is one, the control of them needing to know where you are at all times, what you're doing at all times, who you're with. But the kind of most unhealthy flag is, and it happens over time, is they will withdraw you and separate and divide you from your friends and your family and the people who you're closest to. They'll try and like even turn you against them. So you're left alone. So you've got no one, you know?
You just have that one person.
Yeah. And making you really dependent on that person. Um, that's what I would say. Yeah, that's the
So
kind of
if they see those signs, then that's probably an indication that this is not going to go well.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's gonna ultimately always end in violence, but I would
Right.
say, yeah, that is
There are
a
signs.
really, really bad sign of someone who is, yeah, someone who's gonna start to try to manipulate you.
And going back to that text message that you received that your sister sort of, would you have would that your sister would have also seen, if your sister hadn't been there, would
Mhm.
do you think you would have had that, the strength or the awareness that I need help?
Yeah. I knew I needed help, but I think as the time went on, I probably would have got it, but it would taken a lot longer, like a lot longer. And I would have just been in this cycle, this vicious cycle that I was in for years with him.
And after some of the violent episodes, his reaction, apologetic, or was it somehow always your fault?
Yeah. It would differ. Sometimes it was like the amounts of apology and the amounts of I love yous and everything that would have come and happen afterwards. Like he would like like I said, it was a really passionate relationship. So he would smother me in like love after episodes. But then other times, like what he said, when he said, well, my daughter wouldn't deserve that. It would really differ. It would really, really depend.
Right. Is there anything that you can think of that you would want to sort of tell people that if they could take one lesson from an experience that you're sharing with them?
Oh, that's a really good question.
Like when
I
you
would
think
say,
about it yourself right
yeah.
now, obviously, when we look back on terrible episodes in our lives, we don't want to go through those.
Mhm.
Even when we look back on them, we wish we hadn't. But you have said you're in a really good place
Yeah.
now.
In a really weird way, and this is going to sound so toxic to say, but I don't want to say like it was the making of me, but it kind of was. Um, it was the making of some of me. Like I believe if I hadn't have gone through those horrendous years as such a young person as well. I mean, look, it's absolutely destroyed me as well. Like there's been a lot of cons that have come out of this than pros. But I think that's why I'm so fiercely protective over my energy these days and who I have in my life, who I have in my circle, and how I conduct myself because of what happened to me. Um, and don't get us wrong, like there'll be days sometimes where something will set me off and I'll be taken right back there. And, it's horrible, but I know I have the tools now to be able to get out of that dark place. But going back to your question on what would I tell someone? I would probably say if I can get out of something like that, then you can. Like if I can do it, you can do it, like wholeheartedly. And I mean that sincerely.
And last question: when you're single,
I've recently just started seeing someone very early days of a
do you
relationship.
look? Are there certain signs that you look for now
Mm.
to make sure that this is going to be a healthier relationship?
Yeah. And I think I take things a lot slower now, as opposed to what I would. And yeah, there are characteristics that I do that raise red flags with me. I don't Yeah, and there's energies that I see in people. Like I think I'm really good now at reading energies very quickly. And if I don't like someone's energy or what they're giving me, or can just sense the darkness in them, everyone's got darkness in them, of course. But if I can sense that it's like a wickedness, I'll not even entertain a conversation, never mind get into you know, a romantic experience with someone,
And do you think that that is essentially your instincts of, are there and
Yeah.
they're finely tuned now?
I mean, I think all women's instincts are incredible, Michael, but I know that, your intuition, your gut never lies,
So
never
you say
lies.
this, and I have a daughter who's going to be 29 in a few weeks, and this is what I tell her all the
Yeah.
time. It doesn't matter if it's personal relationships or if it's a work situation. I say, trust your
Yeah.
gut, and the only way that you can develop those instincts is through that process of learning to trust it
Hmm.
and asking yourself the tough
Yeah.
questions. And I think one of the ways that helps you better analyze the situation is, as you said, is to go slower, no matter what it is.
Hmm.
If
Hmm.
it's a personal relationship, a romantic one, a work situation. And, at each step, you're able to ask yourself
Yeah.
questions. And I think we all have those instincts but we're not always necessarily as in tune with them as
Hmm.
we should be.
Yeah. And I think it's like a tool, right? It's like an instrument. It's a fine tuning. And I think um, the more life experience, the more life throws at you, and the more mud you've got to like get out of, drench out of, the quicker it becomes, Um, so like when you're very young, you don't know what your intuition is. You got no idea what it is because you don't even know your own body. You don't know your mind, heart, soul, spirit. You don't know what's going on. Um, so nowadays, yeah, my intuition is like the first thing I listen to. Yeah, definitely.
Thank you very much. I
Thank you.
appreciate this.
I appreciate you as well. Thank you so much. Such a safe space. I appreciate it.